This week we're going to talk about predicting and getting to know your character. This mini lesson is just on predicting, and you'll find on your choice board you have a video with Miss DeMoss on getting to know your character. So just getting into predicting and making predictions. There's some things that you need to do or pay attention to in order to make a good prediction based on what you think might happen next. So some of those things are thinking about what has already happened in your story. Also thinking about how do stories tend to go. So we know that in our fiction stories, usually we have a beginning, middle, and end. Our character usually runs into some trouble or has a problem. And usually, in our fiction stories, our main character usually has a friend to help them get through their challenges, or tries to deal with their challenges on their own, that kind of thing. The last thing that's going to help us get to know and create good predictions is to getting to know your characters, which Miss DeMoss will talk about later, but empathizing with your characters is important. Empathizing means that you can relate and understand your character's feelings. So if you're really into your book, like you will be, because we're building great reading lives, and you're a great reader, you will be able to feel what your character is feeling, and you'll be able to understand based on what you're reading why your character is feeling that way. So a little bit more about predictions. A prediction is a guess that you make using your text or your story and your pictures to help you. Okay, a prediction is set up in a way, and it might sound like this. I think blank because blank. So in a prediction, you're not only just telling me what you think might happen next, but you also are explaining to me why you think that. Okay, so while you're reading, you can predict at any time. You can predict before you read, while you're reading, or after you're reading. To predict before you read, you can look at the title or illustrations on your cover, or for instance in our chapter books, we can look at the titles of our chapters. Now Clementine, we don't have chapter names, it's just chapter numbers. So we really have to go back to thinking what has already happened in our story and what's going on with our character. You can predict while you're reading. The author sets this up quite a few times in your stories, and it's a point where you're thinking, what might happen next? Now, instead of just thinking that, I want you to stop and really predict what you think might happen next. Okay? And then after you're done reading, you're going to ask yourself, did I get my prediction right, or do I need to adjust my prediction? So, based on what you already knew, and before you started reading, you predicted something, at the end of your reading, I want you to think, was I right? Was my prediction right? Or do I need to tweak it a little bit? Because remember, at the beginning, it's just, your prediction is a guess. So it's not right or wrong right off the bat. It's just a guess. But if you use your clues and what's going on in the story already, then your prediction should be pretty close to what actually happened. Okay? Now, we're going to practice predicting in Chapter 3. And I'll just be honest with you, when I had this and the read aloud together, the video was just way too long for you to sit and watch, so I broke it up. So you will want to probably do Miss DeMoss's lesson on getting to know your characters first, because she does that with Chapter 2. And then this and our predicting practice will be done in Chapter 3. So if you want to stay in order of the book, for Clementine, I would do this lesson second, and I'll put that on the choice board. Okay, but before we start reading, I really want you to think to yourself what we've done so far as a reader, because this whole building a new reading life, especially at home, we're also building strong readers. That's what you are, and you're becoming an even stronger reader every day. And with that said, we're not just going to practice predicting by itself. Okay? While we practice predicting, I want you to also keep in mind still creating those mental movies, still remembering the big events that are happening and that have already happened, holding on to your key details. And lastly, getting to know your characters, because your characters will also help you predict, and Ms. DeMoss will talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so when you're ready for chapter 3, I kind of go over the end of chapter 2 before I get started on 3, because that's how we usually do it as a class. We review what we've already learned. And during chapter 3, you'll hear the whole chapter along with some practice for predicting. All right. Bye, guys.